thought in a million years that I would be one of those mamas who struggled with post-adoption blues. Not because I thought I was above it, it's just because I had dreamed, hoped, and wished for this child to be a part of our home for such a long time. So I was not prepared when it struck me. Hi, my name is Sierra McDowell. If this is your first time here, welcome and thank you for joining. If not, well then, welcome back and thanks for being here. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button so that I can get this out to some more people. That would be awesome and would definitely help me out a lot. But God had put on my heart at a young age, 9 years old. I remember exactly where I was. I feel like he just spoke to me. That adoption was going to be part of my story. If you want to know a little bit more about our adoption process here, and you can watch that video. After we brought our sweet boy home, I felt like God had just like fulfilled something. I was so excited and felt so at peace and so whole, and our family just felt right. But then I started to struggle. I was very disappointed in myself. I was having a little bit of a difficult time in the bonding. I loved him from the very beginning, but it needed to grow. And I was thinking I was going to be one of those moms that immediately felt so connected and so overwhelmed and so joyous over that child being my son that it was not going to take that much time for me. And I know that might sound a little bit naive. I kind of thought I was going to be a little bit different in that season. I want to make this clear. With whatever I share, I never want it to reflect poorly on my sweet boy. And any difficulties that he was struggling through is not his fault. I never want to be mistaken for complaining about him or our story. Be open and honest about it so that people aren't walking around after placement and feeling that shame or guilt and that they're the only ones that really struggle. Yes, we did have some training, but it's different when you're walking through it. It's different when you are in it. It feels a little lonely and at times very overwhelming. So nothing of what I am sharing is a reflection of my son. It is what was happening in my heart and within me. And I hope that is very clear. After that high of being home started to kind of settle down, I started just having a difficult time with my attitude and my heart and not being at a place where I had hoped it was going to be in the connection and the bond and the love and the way that I navigated things. You know, we ended our days with screaming. We started our days with screaming. And sometimes that was a little unnerving and was hard to just be present in and wanting to deal with. And I know it's not about what you always want, but it's still difficult. And so like, I just didn't want to get up in the morning. Sometimes I just didn't want to be around my children and I just wanted them to get as far away from me as possible. I just needed some space, but I felt like, you know, when you're working through that attachment and that bonding and you're just pressing in over and over and over again, sometimes I just felt suffocated and like I had no options. And when I feel like I have no options, I don't always respond the best way. I was trying not to respond in a negative way, but instead it was starting to kind of shut me down a little bit. There was a bit of a loneliness and I have a great support system. I have wonderful friends. I have wonderful family. And if it wasn't for them, I would not be where I am today. But I felt alone and I was constantly disappointed in myself for the anger that I had, not necessarily towards him, but because of the way things were playing out at times and just this bitterness towards myself of being disappointed in the person that I am and the expectations that I had of myself. It kind of got a little low for me. I mean, I would find myself just crying all the time. I was constantly questioning myself. Am I doing things right? What can I do differently? And it was hard to always try to like meet these expectations of myself. And that's a lot of what I want to dig into. I didn't necessarily have many expectations of my son when he was coming home, but I sure as heck had a lot of expectations of myself and I needed to address them because my expectations were something that honestly was kind of impossible to achieve automatically, where I was going to be bonded 100%, always choose to, go after that attachment when I don't feel like it. And it was going to be easier because it's a child that is mine and that I love. I had expected that I was going to always respond in the best way because I have this traumatized child that needs that from me. And so when I would slip up or do something that, wasn't the best, I immediately went into this state of shame. And I expected God to do something in my heart faster than I was seeing. And so it did bring me to a place of being a little bit angry at God because you brought me to this. I know you will bring me through it, but it's hard and it hurts right now. And you were supposed to take care of this. Isn't it funny how sometimes, like, when we're frustrated a little bit with God, like, we try to tell him the way he's supposed to do things? Man, it's humbling to, like, say out loud. I had to reconcile that within my heart. God was working, God was doing things. He was growing my heart and continuing to grow my heart. And navigating that, it just didn't look the way that I necessarily wanted it to. But that was an expectation that I needed to release and hand over to God versus trying to manifest it myself by telling God the way he needed to do it. And I realized, I was like, oh crap. I need to get my heart in check. So those expectations weren't necessarily of my child, but they were of me. I didn't think that I was going to be struggling in parenting my other two as much as I did, and the frustration levels with them at times, because before it wasn't really necessarily that way, but we had changed the whole family dynamic. So I don't know what I was thinking. And I also didn't expect that secondary trauma that takes place and it stirring things up inside of me, and then being on the receiving end of his trauma and trying to help him navigate it while also being traumatized at the same time is a lot to navigate. If you're in a spot or a season where you're just like, what the heck did I just do? This is hard. I'm disappointed in myself. I'm feeling pretty low. Give yourself some grace and receive the grace that God has given you for that day. You are that child's parent. He has worked a miracle for that to even take place. And he is going to walk you through it. And it does get easier, but also time is on your side. I know I'm not the most experienced mama out there that's gone through this, because I mean, we just brought home one child within the past year. And there are these families that have, like, I don't know, like 8 kids and counting, and they just are keeping it going. And I am like, how the heck? It's just so awesome. But that doesn't take away from your story. That doesn't, like, that comparison does not take away from your story, and so don't let it. I also had some physical things that were taking place that I was not really aware of, and they were definitely 100% playing a role in some of this post-adoption blues. I have something called PMDD, and something that I've had for a while, but because of some of the stressors that were going on, it was amplified. This overall, like, stress and anxiety and depression. Then there was this whole other side I needed to address. I feel like what happened, at least for me, I'm not sure for everyone, after a few months, I was like, wait, I forgot how to take care of myself. Like, how did this even happen? I was not taking care of my own needs well. You're at a season where you need to try out medication for a little while. It will not solve all of your issues, but sometimes for a season, it's okay to do that. And it does not mean it's going to last forever. But it's something that you can use as a tool for maybe a few months, maybe like a year or two, to really help you continue to navigate how to continue to make those adjustments and changes. I'm someone that has training in mental health. I would be using all of these skills and things for myself, but just go and freaking talk to someone. Like, it will help. The constant rejection that I was experiencing from my child is. And I'm thinking about doing a video about this, like how I continue to press in and love my child who does not like me. If you want me to do that, then leave a comment down below. I feel like that's a hard one to navigate, but at the same time, I feel like I wish that I had someone that I could sit there and watch and hear that is in that. The constant pushing away and the constant rejection when I was already struggling with that bonding and that attachment, it's interesting. It's an interesting experience and one that I am learning so much through, but there's just so many layers, right? And so if you're a spot where you're like, why am I here? Why am I struggling? It's because your world was just flipped upside down. There's multiple relationships to navigate. There's many hats that you wear. You're walking through trauma with someone else. You're dealing with your own trauma. You've prepared, you've done all of these things, but that does not take away from what you are also in right now. I felt like I didn't have the right to be struggling. One, because of what my poor child had gone through and his life being flipped upside down and kind of comparing it. But then also the ideas of this is what you hoped for, this is what you dreamed of, this is what you prayed for, and you signed up for it. And I even sometimes got those comments of, well, this is what you wanted. And they're right, like I did, absolutely. But that doesn't mean that you can't be having a difficult time in this season just because it's what you wanted. That was hard for me to kind of reconcile within myself because I thought that I just needed to rise above, I needed to do better, and I needed to be better. And if I didn't, then I was the one that was failing and I was the one that should have been more prepared. That pushed me more into a spot of isolation emotionally and mentally. And it continued to escalate things because I wasn't necessarily addressing them the proper way. But there were a lot of things that had shifted and there are stressors. It doesn't mean that you would wish them away, but learning how to navigate them can be challenging at times. Be honest. I know it's scary. You know, you have so many people that are involved in, you know, your story. There are support systems, like you have your caseworker, you have the adoption agency. There is this fear of reaching out, I think, and being honest with where you're at because you're scared of what the repercussions could be. You're scared how bad you're going to look. You're scared that they're going to be like, what the heck? Why did we place this child with this family? And those fears can kind of overtake and be intimidating to address. Able to be honest with them. They can help you navigate these things. I know when you're doing that home study, you know, they're like resources, resources, resources. And you're like, okay, cool. I just got to fill out another piece of paper along with the other 5 billion pieces of paper I'm filling out. And the resources that you might have written down aren't necessarily the ones that you will be using now. Agencies are there. They know help point you in the right direction. It's okay to be honest in your difficult season because that's where the healing is going to take place. That's where you're going to find things that are going to help you and not necessarily needing to be scared of reaching out and what that looks like, but being able to say like, here I am and I'm a hot mess. Now, can you help me? It's okay. That does not make you a failure, does not make you unfit to be a mom. That does not make you the wrong mama for your child by any means. So let me know if this is helpful or if there's some more information you want to know, or if you're in this season and you just kind of want to talk about it. I love being able to, you know, connect with people that are in this journey and that are going through, you know, those similar things. So let me know.